Sorry, it's
page 31.
We're learning on page 3 over here. It's 394. Where are you over there?
31.
Okay, 31. This is the Sicha of Tafshin and Beis 30 years ago, about a little bit more than 30 years ago now. The Rebbe said Fabrengen of Tetzaveh, and this is not only the Fabrengen of Shabbos, but as you see, it's also the Sicha that the Rebbe spoke on Tuesday, and on Erev Shabbos, and on Shabbos, and then after that, Yud Aleph Adar. Everything's good. So, this is a combination of all of these sichas, and a chelik of what the Rebbe spoke about was, of course, as a reaction to what happened to Mrs. Lapine, Allah Shalom, Hashem Kindama. The Rebbe speaks about it towards the end of the sicha. The first chelik of the sicha is about the fact that Zayin Adar is the birthday of Moshe Rabbeinu, and the connection to the whole entire month of Adar because of this, which the Rebbe will explain. Want to join us inside? Got it?
Oh, it's
in there. It is in there. It is in the book.
I thought it wasn't in the book.
Yep, it's on page 31. Got it?
Yeah.
31. Parshas Tetzaveh hiya parsha yechide b'teira la'achrei leidas Moshe b'shiva b'adar rishon shlenis barish bo shmoi shel Moshe. Parshas Tetzaveh is the only parsha in the Torah after the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu, and the name of Moshe Rabbeinu is not mentioned in the parsha. So if you see here in the Sicha, the word Rishon of Adar is put into parentheses. Right?
We did the Sicha 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'm saying.
Who taught the Sicha? It was taught.
I said it.
Not me. Okay.
No, I'm saying. I said it all.
Oh, great. Okay, so let me tell you the story behind this parentheses and the ha'ara of what it says there from the Gemara in Saita. Is the birthday of Moshe Rabbeinu on Adar Rishon or Adar Sheni? What's the story? Adar Rishon. So if you look there in the Gemara, in the simple pshat of the Gemara, it seems like that it's a machlekes. What's the machlekes? There's a clear Gemara about this. The Gemara says on the day that Moshe Rabbeinu was placed into the Yam Suf, or actually he was placed into the Nilus, that is. So one opinion says that it was Chaf Aleph Nisan. Another opinion says it was Vav Sivan. And what happened? So they said to the Eibishter, according to the first opinion, what's Chaf Aleph Nisan? Chaf Aleph Nisan is the day of Kriyas Yam Suf, Shuyi Shel Pesach. So they said to the Eibishter, here, this day, when Hashem is going to split the Yam Suf, this is a day that Moshe Rabbeinu deserves to be saved on this day. Another opinion says that it was on Vav Sivan, and they said to the Eibishter, this day that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to come and receive the Torah for Yidden, he deserves to be saved on this day. That's the machlekes. And the Gemara asks a question. We know it says in the pasuk clearly, after he was born, his mother hid him for 3 months, and only afterwards was he placed into the Nilos. Says the Gemara opinion that says that it was on Vav Adar, so that's 3 months from Zion Vav Sivan, that is. So from Zion Adar to Vav Sivan is 3 months. So it makes sense. But the opinion that says that it was Chaf Aleph Nisan, you don't have 3 months there. From Chaf Aleph Nisan, from Zion Adar is much less than that. So how is it 3 months? So the Gemara answers there was a Shana Mu'beres, a Ibiyar, and therefore the Gemara says you have most of the first Adar, the whole middle Adar, and most of Nisan. You're missing 7 days of the first month and the 7 days of the last month. So it's not full 3 months, but it's close to 3 months, and therefore that's what it means, 3 months. That's the Gemara. So when you finish learning this Gemara, the conclusion seems to be, and the Rebbe himself in some places actually concludes this way, that the question of when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, Adar Rishon or Adar Sheni, it's a machlekes. It's a machlekes in the Gemara. But if you look over here in Adar 3, the Maramakim Mistlukut Sichas Chelik Chavav, page 204, and over there, I don't remember which year this was, but sometime in the Mems, the Rebbe wrote a mind of Chsav Yad Kodesh that the pshat of the Gemara is different. Everybody agrees that year was a Shana Mu'beres. The Rebbe says it's not mistaver to say it. It's a machlekes b'metzias whether that year was a Shana Mu'beres or not. Everybody agrees it was a Shana Mu'beres. What's the machlekes? The machlekes is regarding what happened here. Either it was a Shana Mu'beres, and therefore from Zion Adar Rishon till Chaf Aleph Nisan is under 3 months, and that's called 3 months, even though it's missing a week from the first month and a week from the second month, but it's still called 3 months. The second opinion the Rebbe said, and this is a big chiddush, this is the Rebbe's Mara, that it was close to 4 months. From Zion Adar Rishon until Vav Sivan is is almost 4 months. So you're 2 days short 4 months. If it would be months, according to this opinion, is because it was 2 days short of 3 months. Huh?
2 days short of 4
2 days short of 4 months, correct. And therefore that's the pshat in the Gemara that Rebbe says, and the point that Rebbe makes is it's not the staver to say that there's a machlokes b'metzias whether it was a shanim uberes or not. Amazing. That's the Rebbe's chiddush. So therefore here, when it says that Moshe Rabbeinu was born in Shiva B'Adar Rishon, it's according to all opinions. That's when Moshe Rabbeinu's Yom Haledes is. Okay, let's continue. Good question. I don't know. So there's 2 reasons why Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned in Parshas Tetzaveh. Aleph, the first reason is since this is the day that he also passed away, Nirmaz, his name is not mentioned in the Parsha that's always read either right before or right after the Yartzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's one shot, which says in the Moir Einaim and other places. Beis, another reason given why Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned. In this last week's parsha, he says to the Eibishter, if you're going to wipe out Eden, then wipe me out from your Torah. When a chacham says a curse, even if it's a curse that's conditional, and that condition never came to be, but nevertheless, once he utters out of his mouth something, it's going to come to be fulfilled. And Moshe Rabbeinu said that my name should be erased from the Torah, so that came to be fulfilled. So therefore, so even though the Eibishter gave in to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he did not wipe out Klal Yisrael, so the condition that he set for the Eibishter to be erased from the Torah never came to be. Nevertheless, the Mecheni that he said the Eibishter should wipe him out from the Torah was fulfilled to some extent, at least from this parsha, from Parshas Tetzaveh. This is a pshat that it says in the Rishonim, the Rebbe's Mitzayne and the Marmokim. Okay, so now the point here is both of these reasons require additional explanation. They're not adequate explanations to explain why Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned here. And the Rebbe explains his questions on these 2 reasons. Aleph, number 1, regarding the reason that Shiva B'Adar is the day that Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. It's not only his yard site, but it's also Moshe Rabbeinu's Yom Haledes. If so, Kedaihu, and here the Rebbe is quoting the Lashon of Rashi in the Gemara and Megillah, Kedaihu Yom Haledes Shetachaper Al Misa. The fact that it's the very same day that he's born, this atones for the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu passed away on this day. So the day that he's born should be celebrated as much as the fact that it's a yard site. And the Rebbe says, "Kemudgesh bebitul simchas haman ugzeirasai," and this is very emphasized in the Gemara, where it talks about the fact that this is what stopped Haman's plan. And when Haman was excited about the fact that he got the right month to chas v'shalom wipe out Klal Yisrael, he thought that he got the month when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. But he was unaware of the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was born in this month as well. So we see that the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu on this day transforms a gzeira that Haman thought he can implement as a result of the fact that it's the time that Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. If so, the question is, why are we establishing a hint in this parsha by not mentioning Moshe Rabbeinu by name, which hints to Moshe Rabbeinu passing away? On the contrary, this is Moshe Rabbeinu's Yom Haledes. We should mention Moshe Rabbeinu's name maybe even more often than any other parsha in the Torah to show the fact that this is the time of his Yom Haledes. Why are we totally ignoring his Yom Haledes? So there's another Sicha from the Rebbe about this as well, which is Mitzuyan in Hara 12 and Chelik Tezayin. And there the Rebbe points out that if you actually look in Shulchan Aruch, in the halachas of Tanesim, one of the dates that are mentioned as a Tainus is Zayin Adar. It's a day to fast. Until today, Chevra Kadisha fasts on this day. People fast on this day. Maybe the Rabbeim used to fast on this day. It's considered to be a fast day. So the question is even stronger. We're considering a day which is a yard site, but at the same time, it's also Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday. And it's actually the cause of the whole yontiv of Purim that came as a result of the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was born on this day. And yet, it's a fast day. It's a negative day, it's a fast day. Why is that? Okay, so that's one question. Benegea to this, that this is the day, this is the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned in the parsha. Benegea lat base, the second question here. Benegea lat tam da miris mecheni no mesifrecha. This that Moshe Rabbeinu said, that my name should be erased from the Sefer Torah. Kiven shamirase zu. When did Moshe Rabbeinu say this? After Yud Zayin Tammuz, he came down. Moshe Rabbeinu was 40 days in the mountain, and the first time he came down, when he saw the Chet HaEgel, was Shavasa B'Tammuz. So when he comes back up to the mountain again, and to have the conversation with the Eibusher about forgiving the Yidden, so as the Rebbe brings in Order 14, it was only 2 days later, Yud Tes Tammuz, that Moshe Rabbeinu went up for the second time. For the 2 days that he came down, he was busy taking care of matters with Klal Yisrael, as the pasuk describes in last week's parsha. There were certain people that he had to judge them, and so on. Everything that Moshe Rabbeinu did, and only 2 days later did he go back up. All right. So the nichtava b'Torah b'Parshas Sicha shalachrei Parshas Tetzaveh. Where does it say this statement of Moshe Rabbeinu that he's ready to be erased from the Torah? It's in Parshas Kisisa. So if so, Lama Nirmas Kiyuma, why is the fulfillment of this thing that Moshe Rabbeinu said hinted b'smichas l'shiva ba'adar b'Parshas Tetzaveh? Why is it hinted in a parsha earlier in Parshas Tetzaveh before the parsha where the Torah says that Moshe Rabbeinu even said this? It would make sense that maybe Parshas Vayakal, this week's parsha, maybe the next parsha right after Kisisa, when Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Erase me from the Torah," maybe there his name should be erased. But why the parsha before? There's a big argument about this regarding the orders of the parsha. Rashi's opinion actually is that the parshas of the Torah were written out of order because Moshe Rabbeinu only got the command to build a Mishkan after the Yidden were forgiven, after Yom Kippur, exactly. So the parshas are out of order. Right? But the Ramban holds that no, they're not out of order. Moshe Rabbeinu already got the command to build a Mishkan and make all the big day kahuna before the whole story with the Egel, before he went up to Har Sinai, even the first time, right after Matan Torah, as the order is in the parsha. Right? Yisrael, Mishpatim, Truma, Tetzaveh, it's all in order. Then he went up to Har Sinai and the Chet Egel took place. And then when he came back down, the Eibusher told him, yeah, I forgive Yidden, and now take that command I gave you about the Mishkan and the Big Day Kahuna, let's implement it. And then Vayakal Moshe, he gathers the Yidden and tells them the Tzivri. So the parshas of Truma and Tetzaveh were both said to Moshe Rabbeinu before the story of the Chet HaEgel. If so, for sure, Moshe Rabbeinu's name should not be erased in a parsha of the Torah that's talking about pre-Chet HaEgel. That's the question on this reason that it says in the Rishonim. Okay, now the Rebbe concludes, Gam tzorech lahavin hakesher v'ashayches the beis hataimim zelazeh. When you have two reasons for the same subject, so there has to be a connection between them. Shliyasam taimim alayse inyan, they both explain why Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned in Parshas Tetzaveh. Mistaver loima sheyesh kesher v'ashayches b'neihem. It's logical to say that there's a connection between them to explain why Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned. Kiddle kaman, as will be explained over here. Okay, so now to explain all of this, the Rebbe will talk more specifically about Zayin Adar being the day that Moshe Rabbeinu passed away and the day that Moshe Rabbeinu was born. Big arichas about this, and then the Rebbe will come back to answer these questions. Yuvon bahaktim habir begoidel ha'ilui deleidas Moshe b'shiva ba'adar, which is a yom simcha shapoel kol chodesh adar. So first, let's explain what's the story with the day of Shiva ba'adar, which is also considered to be a day of joy, and it actually affects the entire month of Adar, as the Rebbe here will explain. Regarding the month of Adar, Isa b'Gemara, as the Rebbe quoted before, the Gemara says, when Haman saw that the lottery that he threw to see when he should wipe out Yidden fell out in the month of Adar, Haman was very ecstatic about this. Haman, he said, the lottery fell out in the month that Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. He was unaware of the fact that this is also the time of the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu. So what does this mean? How do we understand this Gemara? So the Rebbe teaches as follows. It's the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu on Zayin Adar. This is the source of what annulled the whole decree of Haman in this month. But and two, how does it annul the decree in this month?
Yeah.
The entire month, not just the day of Zayin Adar or the day of Purim itself on Yudalit or Tezvav, but the entire month is transformed to joy. And this is the reason why, as soon as the month begins, we're marbe b'simcha. This that it says right over here, it's unassuming, but it's really the Rebbe's chiddush what it says here. For Pashtus, when it says Mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha, has nothing to do with Zayin Adar. It's because of Purim, because of the nest that happened on Purim. What the Rebbe is saying over here is that it's not because of Purim that we'd say Mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha. It's because Zayin Adar was the cause of annulling the miracle, of annulling the Gzeirah. That's the reason why Mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha, because of Zayin Adar, not only because of Purim. What's the pshat in this? So there's another Sicha where the Rebbe explains this, or if you want to take a look in Order 20, you can see over here a point to this. I don't know if you have it in the booklet there or whatever. So in the Order 20, the Rebbe brings here, Rashi says, there's a very, very interesting Rashi regarding this. The Rashi says, Yimei Nisim, Hoyu Yisrael, Purim, Upesach.
Yeah.
On the Gemara Mishenichnas Adar. Yimei Nisim, there were miraculous days for Yidden, Purim, and Pesach. So all the Mefarshim asked the question. The Gemara is saying, Mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha. Where does Pesach come into the story here? So some want to say, well, if when the month of Adar comes in because of the nest of Purim, you have to be b'simcha, so why should Pesach be any less? Mitzrayim was just as great as a miracle as the nest of Purim. So maybe Mishenichnas Nisan, you should also be marbe b'simcha. So that's what Rashi says. Yeah, nachanami. Mishenichnas Adar. When you start Adar, marbe b'simcha, and that includes Pesach as well. So both the months of Adar and Nisan, marbe b'simcha. That's what some of Farshim say. Okay, there's a vart the Welt says, but it's not true. It's not a vertel the Welt says that Mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha, but it never says to stop. So you have to be marbe b'simcha until Chodesh Av when it says memata b'simcha. But that's not the pshat of the Gemara. The simple pshat of the Gemara is Mishenichnas Adar, the month of Adar, you marbe b'simcha. Rashi seems to be adding Adar and Nisan. But the Rebbe doesn't accept this pshat. It's not the simple pshat of the Gemara. The Gemara says specifically Adar. Simply, it means only the month of Adar you have to be b'simcha. So why does Rashi add in Pesach? So the Rebbe says a very geschmack of art. The Gemara there, when it talks about Mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha, the language of the Gemara is Kishem shemishenichnas of mematim b'simcha, kach mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha. Just like in the month of Av, you minimize of joy, so to an Adar you have to increase joy. Okay. So now you see here there's a connection between the two. In order to understand why Adar is a unique month that you're marbe b'simcha, you could learn it from the month of Av when you're memayit b'simcha. So what's the question here? The question is, was Adar the only month that miracles happened to Klal Yisrael? No. You have Nisan, you have Kislev. So why not Nisan or Kislev? What's unique about the month of Adar? The answer is, you could understand it when you look at the month of Av. It's the same thing also regarding tragedies that happen to Klal Yisrael. Is Av the only month where tragic events happen to Klal Yisrael? No. But what's unique about the month of Av? So the Gemara says two things. The Gemara says that it's a time where Huchbulu Bayatzaris, that there were things that kept on happening in the same date, in the same month, that it repeated itself again and again. On Tisha B'Av, when there's the story of the Miraglim, and when the first and second base of English were destroyed on that day. So therefore, this is the Gemara calls it a Yom Chayev. It's a negative time period for Klal Yisrael. That's what's unique about the month of Av, that Mematim B'Simcha. Says the Rebbe, it's the same Nekuda about Chodesh Adar. The point of Chodesh Adar is not just the fact that a miracle happened to Klal Yisrael. There are other times that miracles happen. But this is a month where there was a double miracle in this month. Huchbulu Boya Nisim, and there's a Yom Zakei, there's a special day in this month that brought about double miracles. What's that day? It's only the month of where the Ness of Purim happened, Yudal Adar. The answer is the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu. The birth of Moshe Rabbeinu and Zayin Adar brings about, of course, the Geula of Mitzrayim, took the Yidden out of Mitzrayim, and then the fact that he was born in this month caused to annul the decree of Haman because he didn't know this is the month that Moshe Rabbeinu was born. Komtois, that the day of Zayin Adar is a unique and special day. And what is the cause of this day? It brings about Huchbulu Bayanisim. It brings about Sai Purim and Sai Pesach. That's what Rashi meant when he says Purim and Pesach. So when over here in the Sicha, when the Rebbe says that Mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha, that it's connected to Zayin Adar, so that's the Rebbe's chiddush. But Pashtus Mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha is because of Purim. The Rebbe says no, that's not the reason. The reason is because of the birth of the Rebbe, of the Nasi Adar. That's the reason. Because it was the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu that took the Yidden out of Mitzrayim, and generations later, also that schus saved Yidden from the ness of from the Gzeira of Haman. That's the reason why Marbim B'Simcha. That's what the Rebbe is saying here. By the way, the Rebbe, according to this, also says in the Paiskim, there are some that say the Mishnich Nesad Marbim B'Simcha only starts Ad Sheni. The Bali Marash Chayre, they don't want to have too much. 2 months, 60 days of Simchas, it's too viel. Can't handle so much Simcha. So they say, Mishnich Nesad, there's the second month. Well, listen, Purim is only the second month. The first month, take it easy. The Rebbe said, no.
That's the kasha by the end of the last halach of the Ramah.
He says, that's
the answer he gives. He says the Machmirim, what are they fulfilling? They're doing the union of the life type.
Yeah. So the Rebbe said, since we explained over here that the point, where does the Simcha come from? Not just from Purim. It comes from the Leid of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Leid of Moshe Rabbeinu was an Adoration, especially according to the Rebbe's Chiddush that I mentioned before, that there's no machlekes about that. Everybody agrees that the Leid of Moshe Rabbeinu was Ayin Adoration. So the Mishanichnas Adam, Marbim B'Simcha, starts Adoration, not only Ad Sheni. That's the Rebbe's word. Let's continue inside. For Adar, the body, Takif Mazale. The month of Adar, the entire month has a strong, healthy mazel. So Mailam Yechedesh B'Chodesh Adar. There's a special advantage in this month. And we don't find any other month that has the Maila that the month of Adar has. Okay, so that's what it says in the Gemara. But now the question is, if you just read the Gemara simply for what it says, all it says is that the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu in this month that it removed the negativity and the gzeira that Haman was trying to bring and introduce into the month. Haman was all excited about the chance that he's getting over here, chas v'shalom, to wipe out Klal Yisrael. So the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was born in this month removed this plan. It annulled this plan. But olachayre ein raya shebeglal zeh tigdal malosei shel chodesh zeh yoser mikol shachot sheyashana. It's still not a reason to say that this month should have an advantage over all the months of the year, that it should be the only month of the year that there should be a tremendous simcha here in this month. So, I mean, there is definitely a tremendous nest that happens, and it's the Klal Yisrael is saved and so on. But if you think about it, what happened over here? The Yidden came to the brink of annihilation, and the Eibush just saves them. So is that a reason why the entire month should be transformed and it's considered to be above the rest of all the months of the year, that it's completely different? A tragedy was avoided, but it's not enough of a reason to say that this month is unique and special and there's a joy in this month that you don't find in any other months of the year. This question is even stronger. So here is a very interesting medrash that gives us more details regarding this lottery that Haman made to see when he wants to wipe out Klal Yisrael. So it says as follows: when Haman came up with his plan to wipe out the Omar, so Haman said to himself, how am I going to have any control over Eden? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a lottery and I'll see. The lottery will guide me when's the right time. So he starts in the month of Nisan and followed by Schus Pesach. So he says, no, the month of Nisan is not the right month. There's a Schus of Pesach in it. Be'ir, Schus Pesach Cotton. The month of Iyar has Pesach Cotton. And so he went from month to month to month, and in every month he found a certain merit that he cannot touch the Yidden. It goes on to count all the advantages that there is for every one of the months of the year. Comes the month of Adar, the month of Adar, he sees there's nothing unique, nothing special about this month. There's no merits here. Now, besides looking at past history of what happened to Klal Yisrael in this month, so Haman was a big chacham. So Haman went and also looked in the mazalis and the constellations to see the mazalis of the month. What's the right time? So again, Tle, he looked at the mazel of Tle, Zuchus Pesach. The Tle, which is the mazel of the month of Nisan, is the lamb that he didn't bring as a korban Pesach. And so on, the Medrash goes on, Sher Nimtzes Chus Yosef, the month that the mazel is like an ox. So Yosef, the Torah compares to an ox. The Medrash enumerates all of the mazalis of the year, of the months of the year. Till he comes to the month of Adar, and the mazel of the month is fish. That's the mazel of the month. You couldn't find any schus. There's nothing positive about fish. Okay, so in the Ha'ara here, the Rebbe Bavarans, there's an obvious positive thing that it says in the Chumash about fish in Parshas Vayechi, v'yid gularayv b'kerev haaretz. Every child knows this, right? So how does Haman, which knows everything, does not know about this simple mazel, good mazel that there is mazel ad the dogim? This is a good mazel of the month. There's no ein hara in fish and so on. How was Haman unaware of this? Okay, so the Rebbe will answer this later in the Sicha. But Akapana, that's what it says in the Medrash, that Haman said, fish? What a fish? Fish have no mazel to them, nothing. And the Samach, he was excited, and miyad, and immediately va'amar, he said, Adar ein leischus. This is a month that in the past history of Klal Yisrael, there's nothing that's positive about it that happened to Yidden. Umazale ein leischus. The mazel of fish are nothing negative, nothing positive about them. And then he discovered another thing. This is the month that their teacher Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. That's what was the source of Haman's excitement. Then the Medrash concludes, like the Gemara says, but he did not know. This is very interesting. Here in this Medrash it says Echad Badar. It's not Shchaydish Adar. It's Zayin Adar. Why does it say Be'echad Badar? That's something that Rebbe answers later in one of the Horas of the Sicha as well. But that's, there's another Gersa in the Medrash where it says Shvi Badar, but in the Medrash that we have, it says Be'echad Badar. Moshe Rabbeinu was born as Shchaydish Adar and passed away to Shchaydish Adar. Okay, let's leave it as it is now. For Omar, and now it was said to Haman, whoever it is that said to him, Kishem Shahadogim Boilin. Again, sorry. Haman is the one that said, he was saying to himself, Kishem sha'adogim boilin, kach ani belei oisan. Not only are fish something which has no good sign, fish is a negative thing. The fish is the sign, I'm the big fish that's going to come and swallow the entire Klal Yisrael. So David answers him, Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rasha, dogim pa'amim nivlaim upa'amim boilin. Fish sometimes get swallowed up by other fish, and sometimes they swallow other fish. And now what's going to happen is, this time around, what's going to happen is, not you as a fish will come and swallow Klal Yisrael, which is the smaller fish that are being swallowed by Haman, the big fish, but on the reverse. Haman is going to be swallowed by Klal Yisrael, which is the big fish. That's the Medrash. Very interesting Medrash. Okay, so what do we see here in this Medrash? Haman was researching all the months, and he understood both the history over here that happened Lamata, and he understood all the Mazalis Lamaila, and he discovered that it's a month that has nothing positive in it. Nothing. So what we see over here, even more so, is Shalei das Moshe rak mevatele sehim biltirotzi sheb misase. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was born on this day, what does that accomplish? It removes the negative effect of the fact that it's the day of his yard site. So it sort of neutralizes that negativity. It balances it out. The fact that he passed away brings a negative energy into the month. The fact that he was born, so it's not negative anymore. So now what is the month of Adar? We go back to square one, that it's a month which has nothing positive in it. That's what happens here. What was Haman saying? That he was hoping that in this month he'll have the possibility to swallow up all the Klal Yisrael. That now in this time that he'll be able to swallow the Yidden. When you look in the Medrash, and Haman, with all of his research, he wasn't wrong. The month itself had nothing positive that ever happened to Klal Yisrael, and there was no good mazel in this month, including the fact that it's the birthday of Moshe Rabbeinu. Haman didn't miss that. What the Rebbe is basically saying over here is Haman did not miss the fact that Shiva B'Adar was Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday. Elamai, what was the problem?
Now he realized that they canceled each other.
What Haman was thinking was they cancel each other out. Moshe Rabbeinu passing away is a negative energy. The fact that he's born is a positive energy. So it neutralizes, it cancels each other's out. So you end up with zero. So there's nothing special about this month. The question is, V'vadai, Most definitely, you would think that this is a month that does not have some kind of special advantage more than the rest of the months of the year. What's so special about the fact that this is Chodesh Adar? Okay, that's the shaila over here. So let's see maybe just one nekuda of the Rebbe's answer, and we'll continue next week. So the point here is, it's known when the Rebbe spoke about the whole concept of birthdays. The Rebbe would always quote this famous Yerushalmi, Shebiyayim Holdasi Shalada. On the day of a birthday of a person, Hamazel Hashaylit B'Yayim Hahu Eizerlei. There's a mazel of the person that is dominant on that day, and it comes and it assists the person in everything he needs for that year. This is the source of what the Rebbe would always say, that on a day of a birthday, mazale geiver. Hainu, shahamazel dahayim, oizer lahadam. It's the mazel of the day that assists a person. Shemazale shalahadam geiver. The mazel of the person is very strong on that day. Kolosh nakosov, similar to what it says by Moshe Rabbeinu when he raised up his hands by the Mocham of Amalek, the Gava Yisrael, that by him raising his hands, he brings the might to the Yidden. That's the koyach of Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday. Mazaloi of Moshe Rabbeinu is geiver. So we can say, if it's the birthday of Moshe Rabbeinu, now who's Moshe Rabbeinu? So Rebbe here quotes the Lashon of Rashi in Parshas Chukas. Moshe, hu Yisrael, the Yisrael, he Moshe. Moshe and the Yidden are synonymous. It goes together. Moshe Rabbeinu is the leader of Klal Yisrael, and he includes in his birth the birth of all the Klal Yisrael. And Yidden are Moshe. Nasi Adar hu kachol Adar ki anasi hu akol. The Rebbe of the generation, he is the entire generation. The Rebbe is everything. Now, the Kivin shespashtusa the Moshe b'chol dara v'dara. There's a nitzitz of Moshe Rabbeinu that's in every generation. So Kailul Moshe as Kol b'nei Yisrael atzef kol adayis. Moshe Rabbeinu's birth on this day is mazale geiver of Klal Yisrael. So therefore, what happens on the day that Moshe Rabbeinu is born? Geiver mazalam shel Yisrael. This is the day that the mazal of Yidden is very strong. Meaning, so the point that the Rebbe is saying is, if you want to look at the month itself, there's nothing in history in the past that Haman saw that ever happened positive to Klal Yisrael. And as far as the actual mazel of the month itself is concerned, there's nothing positive about the mazel of the month itself. But it's the Yidden that in this month, that the mazel of the Yidden is geiver. In the month of Pesach, Nisan, or all the other 11 months of the year, there's something unique about the actual mazel itself of the month, which has positive energy to it. The month of Adar, the actual mazel of the month, the mazel Adar Dogim, there's nothing that's unique and there's nothing that's positive about it. What's the special mazel? Above the month, the Yidden, the special time that there's a mazal geiver of the Yidden, even if it's unrelated to the actual month itself. Let's finish with one more paragraph. Umizeh, move on. So from this we understand that this has an impact on the mazel of the month as well. In the month that Moshe is born, which is Hu Yisrael, it means that this is a time where the mazel of Yidden is stronger. So the mazel of the month assists and helps the mazel of the Yidden that it should be a stronger mazel. Adar, the body of the Tokev Mazle, Adar, which has a stronger mazel, Hainu Shaleidas Moshe Hu Yisrael B'Shiva Ba'Adar Payeles Al Kol HaChodesh. It has an impact on the month. Shabai Geiver, body of the Tokev Mazalim Shel Yisrael. That this brings about that the mazel of the month should be stronger, even though the mazel on its own does not have anything unique about it, but because the mazel of the Yidden is stronger in this month, it affects the mazel of the month as well, that it should elevate the Yidden above the Gzeira of Haman. Okay, this is just the Haschala. We'll see the Hamshach Emetz Hashem next week.
These are being left over.
This one?
Yeah.